socializing, but I have a whole group of people at my house. I'm missing the party. Missing the party. Okay. Yes, my daughter and her fiance are up to get their wedding license. They went, they left, they haven't come back, so I'm assuming it's okay. And their dogs are taking over my couch. Pretty funny. I actually almost took a picture to bring it because it was hysterical. Anyway, so alrighty. Calling order to meeting. I'm going to say 5:05. And our celebrity clerk. We've all seen. I forgot to bring my copy to have it autographed, but wonderful article and kudos to. I think they got it right, but you're going to be the only one that will know that. But
John did a really good job.
Yeah, it was awesome with him.
And we're just checking. You're not retiring from here.
We've had this conversation.
I already asked.
And what was the answer?
The answer is not yet.
Good.
There we go. There wasn't a bribe involved. Yes. So, introduction of board members. Linda
Barrett, clerk.
Thank you.
Judd Markowski, Bridport resident and WIB member.
William Biederman, Middlebury resident, WIB member.
Steve Fox from Middlebury.
Chrissy Wesley, Workforce Development from Middlebury.
Austin Haynes from New Haven, Director of Business and Finance.
Kim Farter, the chairperson. I'm the community at large member from the Mount Abraham School District, and I live in New Haven.
Vance Bishop, Middlebury at large.
Dan Rosengold, Northwest Addison at large.
I'm Christina Macklin, North Ferrisburg, and I'm the Addison Northwest School District rep.
Wendy Pratt, Assistant Director. Nicole McTavish, Superintendent and Director.
Steve Orzik, Middlebury resident, ACSD board member and vice chair.
David
Roberts, Director of Operations.
Thank you. And somebody is behind you.
Shannon Thurber, Executive Admin and HR Assistant.
Thank you. And somebody next to you.
Bill Lane. I'm a diesel student.
Awesome. Welcome. And Laura Arthur.
ACSD.
Thanks, Laura.
We have online. Liz.
Oh, hi, Liz.
Sorry.
Hi, Liz Singer from MAUSB.
Welcome. So I need a motion to approve the agenda in front of you.
So moved. Judd.
Second? Go. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none. Motion to approve the April 16th, May 6th meeting minutes. Do you need those separate ones there? Thank you. Motion? So moved. Thank you. Take a breath, girl. In a second. Sure. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Public comment on the agenda only. Oh, that's a comment. Sorry. So consent agenda. Let's start with the monthly accounts payable.
So this is a quick recap of April. For the general fund, we had $192,082.75 in AP checks. Payroll was $244,433.45. In adult education, $7,324.35. The Makery had one check run for $69.76. Enterprise was $8,354.21. Student activities, $14,674 even. No activity in our scholarship fund, and the building and equipment reserve fund, we cut a total of $17,376.41. And that is the month of April.
Any questions from anybody? Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that is a consent agenda. I'm going to go ahead and look for motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. Steve, thank you. All those in favor of voting for the consent agenda as reported, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a SillksUSA presentation from, I believe, that person who just introduce themselves. But if you just want to stand, you don't have to get up in front or do a dance or anything like that, but.
No, we want you to. Go ahead.
Don't do it.
Practice your presentation skills.
So everyone, this is Dylan Lane from our diesel class, and even though he only takes one class, he's there for most of the day working on a vehicle that he purchased, and is just one of those incredible students that we love to have going here. So go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, don't really know what to say, but been part of SillksUSA for the last 2 years and gone to several competitions and placed first in the Vermont State diesel competition the last 2 years and got to go to nationals where I placed 11. And that was a pretty nice experience. Hopefully I get to go again this year. And because I placed so well, they was awarded by several scholarships from different schools. So that was very, very nice for people that are part of that program. So I plan on attending a trade school next year, which I probably won't be this fall. But I probably wouldn't be if it wasn't for the scholarships and stuff that I got through skills.
Cool.
So,
What school are you gonna go to?
probably the Universal Tech Institute or Wyotech.
Where are those? I'm sorry.
Wyotech's in Laramie, Wyoming, and the one other one I go to the Exton, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing your story with us, because a lot of times we don't hear that part, or there's a little bit in the paper, but you can tell you really enjoy it. Yeah, awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Bill?
Can we ask questions? What do they actually do in the tests? If you can kind of tell us what they have you do.
So most of it's hands-on, which is nice. You show your actual skills rather than just in a book. But like I said, there's a written portion, and you have to submit a resume and have a interview. And then there's also, so like their parts identification. So like one of them was air brakes. Last year there was an AC table. So all the AC parts were laid on the table, not hooked to anything. You didn't know what everything went to. And different tools, what they did, and their pre-trip inspections, that kind of stuff. And also, what else we do? They bugged the truck. So they brought in a Class 8 10-wheeler truck, and they bugged it. And we had to figure out what was wrong with it. Like, so last year there was the manifold pressure sensor. They had cut one of the pins off it, so you had to go on the computer, figure out everything's wrong, and you only had a few minutes to do it all. And that was that kind of challenges when you're actually working on stuff. The Nationals was even more beyond that. That was a lot. Nationals had a lot to cover, from hydraulics. They had a running engine there you had to mess with, figure out the diagnosis on this whole thing that's full of wires.
Cool. Thank you for explaining that. Yeah, appreciate it.
Good.
What's the vehicle that you're working on at the school?
I purchased a 81 A model Kenworth.
Oh, sweet.
So triaxle truck. So we're trying to bought it. The engine top it wasn't on it. Came in a box. Came with half the in-frame kit. So pistons, liners, all that stuff. So I bought the rest of the kit and pulled the engine out and did a complete rebuild. Put it back in, and so it got it running a few weeks ago. So now I'm trying to work on. I think I drive right now, but I got a lot of other things like there's no hood on it. That kind of stuff. But.
Excellent. Cool.
Dan?
So you said you competed 2 years and you're going to compete a third. So what years did you compete?
I competed
As a junior?
As a junior in states, and I won.
Okay.
So I progressed on to nationals. And then this year I competed in states, and then on the first we leave for nationals.
Okay.
So it'd be 2 years but 4 competitions.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah.
Make us proud.
No pressure.
I have another question. How did you diagnose a manifold pressure sensor in minutes?
So, I forget exactly what the time it was, whether it was 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it was. But you had the computer, they gave it to you, you had to plug it in the truck. And you had to go through all the checks, figure out and tell you all your codes. Then you had to take that code, punch it in, figure out what that code went to. And then, once you found where that went to, you could say, it's supposed to have power, not supposed to have power. So then you went up to that, and you pulled it apart, and then we could see what was wrong. That wasn't.
Good.
It varies per year, but.
Because I'd say if you did that in a half an hour, you can charge a lot per hour.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any question?
Kim, I'm just wondering, when's the competition, June or?
June 1st through 6th, or 5th.
You guys are driving out to Ohio, or driving out, no, it's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Flying to Atlanta. That's right.
I'm sure you purchased it.
I'm not about that these days. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yes,
Dylan,
so.
are you interested in teaching diesel in the next 10, 15 years?
I was just thinking the same thing.
I don't know about that. Well, you might not want me teaching other kids.
I don't know. I hear you have some pretty good leadership skills.
Keep us in mind,
I
right?
think if you can diagnose a manifold in 20 minutes, you're gonna make some real money out
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Might not be able to afford him.
Yeah, true.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Don't
you.
feel like you
Good luck.
need to stay through this meeting if you don't
Yeah.
want to, but you're certainly welcome to.
You can rock that.
Yeah, I would love
Yeah.
You want to escape.
So, just,
Thank you very much,
we do
Dylan.
have
Thanks,
three-
Dylan.
Good luck.
Have a good one.
We do have 3 students and 3 advisors that will be going to the competitions, for that first week in June.
Which programs, all the same or?
Nope, Diesel and David, and then Stephanie and Try from Medical Professions, and who's
Morgan.
Lisa and Morgan Beeman for her pin design, that won and gold, and that's the pin that all of the students are going to be wearing. Every
fun.
student there, tens of thousands will be getting them, so that one's
That's
really
amazing.
exciting.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really great.
She's nervous. I saw her the other day.
Yeah.
Any other questions about SillksUSA? They seem to do, with our little tiny school, we seem to do pretty well through the years, which is fun.
Great opportunities.
So next in action items, we have, first one is a treatment students ends report. Is this first or second?
That one's you.
This is just our annual ends report, and there were a few minor changes, but for the most part, the superintendent is in compliance, and we kind of just go through all of the various pieces. The one piece that, this is the one with the North Campus, with the accessibility, because we have no elevator at North Campus, we have a couple of ways to get around that. If a student were to need it, we do have one of the chairs that a student can sit in, and 2 adults can carry up the stairs if necessary. We have had to do that one other time. And we also, because we still have space available over here, we could move the class over here and they can work in the greenhouse shop area, or even share the old ag classroom up here and until somebody doesn't need it. So I just wanted to kind of point out that we have some ways around that one. Any questions about that one?
Number 2, is that worded correctly? Use methods, blah, 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 that fail to protect against improper access. Yeah, we're doing that.
Right, the superintendent is in compliance.
With using a method that fails to protect.
Use methods, not use methods.
Right.
Use methods.
Right, so you're saying that I don't fail to do this, right?
okay, just the way it's worded.
Yeah, it does seem weird.
Weird.
It does seem like.
All
it's
of them
saying-
are, all of them were set up that way, even if you look at, the first one, which there is no clear necessity. I mean, it is a little bit on,
Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe they're testing you.
they could be.
All right, I wouldn't word it that way. Okay.
She's got an English major, she's.
You wrote these, they're your governance standards. Somebody wrote them, I'm not
Yeah.
sure we did.
Be a minute on that one. All right, any other questions? Can I get a motion to accept that ends report?
So moved.
Thank you. Bill or Laura, you can pick Linda. You're sitting next to me. Anyway, all those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Number 2, ends report for the treatment of teachers and staff.
Similarly, this is the annual ends policy for me to report to you that I don't fail to treat people well, teachers or staff. So this talks about that we have administrative procedures and policies for grievance and protections against wrongful treatment or nepotism. It talks about that we support the master agreements, both of the certified staff and non-certified staff, that we follow the employment law and all the workplace conditions, that we avoid harassment and discrimination, and that we do not keep people from dissenting when they need to, or discriminate against people who do, that we don't fail to ensure that staff have all their protections, and that we make sure that everybody is prepared for emergency situations. And so for each of those, we are in compliance. So we're reporting that the superintendent is in compliance with this ends policy.
Any questions? Seeing none. Need a motion to accept that?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Dan, second. Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. State Board Rule 60, DSA.
Okay, this one is referring to opportunities for prospective students to explore CTE and all the things that we do to try to get different students in here so that they understand what we're doing. So basically, especially Lauren is the one that has kind of taken the lead on all of these things. So a lot of it is our PR materials. We have our 8th grade and 10th grade tours and presentations. We have our drone club that Dan A is working with the middle school students on. We do shadow days regularly, so if a prospective student is interested, they'll call up, set up a time, and they can come stay with the student for the day, or we can just do a simple tour and question and answer. We do those regularly throughout the year. And our CTSO participation is a way to try to get other students to learn about what we're doing here. We have our open houses, and the job fair at North Campus has been growing, and that's a way to get people in. We're putting ads in the paper. We're trying to do write-ups in the paper. Our annual report helps get this information out there, sending schools in for counselor breakfasts. It just kind of goes on and on. We really have increased all of this to a much bigger level than what we had been doing, and continue to do it and continue to change things based on feedback. Each program also does their own separate things, and that all is a way to get more students in the building. Any questions?
I have one. How is it in regards to the obstacle we had last year in regards to offering opportunities for people from the south and the north that maybe aren't in our district? How's that going?
It's going well. Nicole had sent letters out right after our May 1st deadline of asking for the sending schools to have their decision forms back. And this week, we just reviewed new applications, and I think we had 4 from up north and maybe 3 from down south. So it's kind of exciting. It's actually working.
Yeah.
We still haven't worked out if they can provide the transportation piece, but it's exciting that they're applying, and many of them actually wrote on their application that they got a letter in the mail that said they could apply, so.
Awesome, good. Are they all in one program or?
No, all over the place.
Okay.
It's interesting. Medical professions is just blowing up though. That one is the one everybody seems to want right now.
Wonder why.
I do have a question. It's obvious that this has really expanded in an awesome way, and I was just wondering, have you guys tracked how that has affected the budget in any way, or like with there obviously is money to spend on all of this, and like where were we and where are we now, kind of thing? Is that?
I don't have that
I'm
number
just curious.
here,
Yeah.
but we do budget specifically for marketing.
Yeah.
And we have definitely increased the marketing budget.
Yeah.
But we do also kind of think about it as every student is X dollars of tuition. So
yeah,
it's a big bang for your buck, even if you get 1 or 2 students as a result.
Yeah.
If the board is interested, we could bring that back. But we do have a specific line item for marketing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it definitely sounds like it's paying off. I'm just curious, like where we were, where we are now.
Well, yeah, and interestingly, historically, we used to put in 30,000 for marketing.
Yeah.
There was no reason for that, and nothing really that was earmarked. And it would kind of get spent as it needed to. And sometimes it was, like big expenses in there, like the banner that got hung up down in the town wants to promote one of the open houses. And that was several $1,000s. So I think what's changed now is it's much more intentional. So we have an ad calendar that all of our ads to Addie Indy are scheduled out throughout the year. Sometimes we have to adjust that a little bit, but just knowing that has been very helpful.
We also try to do double duty with things, like our annual report now is a marketing tool. It's not just, right? So we've been trying to use each thing that we actually produce as more than one strategy.
Yeah, I think a lot of the school districts have adopted that too. But on the individual programs that are, that they're doing their promotions, do the costs of some of those things come out of their program line item budget, or is that also lumped into marketing? I don't even know if these things cost money.
I would say mostly they're not doing that kind of work. They're doing something that is more has to do with getting alumni on social media or something around that.
Thanks.
Steve.
Assuming that we get all 7 students, could you give a ballpark estimate of how this would impact tuition? Because it's been going up 8-9%, and my hope is that this will help alleviate some of that pressure.
It's a great question. So unfortunately, it doesn't impact us right away because we are funded on the 6 semester failing average. So those students would go into our fall 2026 count, which doesn't count until essentially the next year. And it would be averaged over 6 semesters. But if that uptick continues, it starts happening pretty quick because the average will start going up, especially since next year we drop off a really low year. Because we had 1 year that was very low, and then all the other years since then have been high, but that 1-2 semesters is really dragging down the other 4. So if the uptick continues to go up like we're hoping, then the costs are fixed, but there are more students to spread the tuition over. Right. So I don't have a specific number, but it makes a big difference in a big hurry. I mean, we calculated that even 10 students makes a big difference.
I'm gonna look at Austin because I learned something about this weirdness of billing. So next year, like if Middlebury had 200 kids here, they're still gonna pay the tuition times our average. They don't pay by how many students are in the building today. They pay how many students are over the 6 semester average. Is that right, Austin? Is that
Yeah,
right?
I mean, July 1st, we start fiscal year 27, and that budget's already baked, and so the attendance as of last fall, our FTE count, which is the average over 6 semesters, as Nicole mentioned, that feeds into next year's fiscal year budget, and that will impact the revenue we collect. So the kids who are physically in the building in fiscal year 27 have no impact on that actual fiscal year's budget or the revenue we collect within that fiscal year, because it's trailing you. The average trails, and the intention behind that is to sort of minimize any big peaks and valleys. So if you have a semester or two that completely tank, you're still averaged out, so it helps to minimize the sting if you have a low performing year. The counter balance to that is if you have a really high performing year, the same process unfolds where you're not boosting as much as you would like, even though you have high performance. So I think the overall concept I think of is, overall we're trending in the right direction. A lot of our sending districts have declining enrollment and we don't, which is kind of a big win in today's climate of school attendance and enrollment. But yeah, it's a bit convoluted as far as how independent tech is funded on that 6 semester FTE trailing average and how our budget actually lags with attendance and what we get funded by the state and our sending districts. Does that make sense?
Oh, I understand the funding model.
Oh, okay.
It's not a question of that. It's just the sending districts, are very aware of how the tuition has been going up,
right,
and are looking for relief in that situation. So.
Yeah, without cutting programs, really the biggest way to counteract that is higher attendance, because every year we get more expensive, and just by health insurance alone, you're sort of treading water. But.
Bill?
So it won't show up in the average that you're saying, but the funds will still come in and be applied to everything.
In the year after the kids are here, yes.
Right. In FY28.
So if we get 7 kids in, we don't get any money from them in 2027?
Correct. Yep. Because of our trailing 6 semester average and how the budget is developed and built.
We have, if we get to a point, and the VACTA directors are advocating for a change to that language, should we get to a point where we can advocate for that. There's nothing in the current bills on the table that allow us to advocate for that because they're not about money right now. But we're advocating that it would be, the language would change to either the trailing 6 semester average or the current enrollment, whichever is higher. I don't know when we'll get to have that conversation though.
Okay.
Yeah, so how will we charge sending schools that have no history for us? You say Middlebury has X number of students, but Stafford has 0. So how will they get billed?
It's based on the budget year and fiscal year that you're working in. So our FTE count for next year's budget was set in October. So we invoice out based on attendance as of October of last year. Okay. So we have a roster with AOE and an FTE count for every single district. And that is what we're collecting July 1st for next fiscal year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if we had one student from Burlington come here,
which we do
for 1 year,
yeah,
we bill Burlington for 3 years.
Correct. Yeah, we had a student move out of district.
Yeah. So they're paying 3 years, that the trailing average.
Can we do that some more?
Yeah. What a weird system.
I like these little opportunities that you guys get to learn.
Makes no sense.
Do more of that.
Any other questions from anybody?
We're no wonder we are where we are. Oh my God.
With that,
That's just the stuff.
seeing no other questions, I need a motion to accept that. So moved. Thank you, Lauren. Second? Judd, thank you. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye, please.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Second read.
So for the next 4 policies, you saw them last time, and that's considered first read, so you've had an opportunity to review them. Now is a chance that if you have anything to ask questions about or that you don't understand in the policies, now is a good time to ask those questions before we approve them, because once we approve them, then we move on to the next set of policies. So. We can speak to the ones that are up here. They're not really anything. The C11 and C13 are simply reviewing policies that the VSBA has not updated, so they are staying the same. But it does mean that we have reviewed them to see that they are, or that they are passing muster. D1 and F1, those were not mine, so who had those?
Proficiency-based graduation requirements. Wasn't there a question for VSBA?
There was, but this policy doesn't really address what we need to address with VSBA. It's just saying that if we grant a degree, that it will be based on proficiency. The proficiency-based model, we don't grant any degrees, therefore we have a policy that really doesn't do anything, and that's the question for VSBA. Why is this a mandatory policy when we don't grant diplomas? So.
Well, you can tell I didn't review that one. So.
And I simply, my notes aren't here. I don't remember who did F1.
Christina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And what's the question about F1?
If anybody had any questions,
Oh.
who to talk to about that.
Oh, good.
On that note, Linda, can I ask for a motion for all of those together? Thank you. Okay, so I need a motion for 4, 5, 6, and 7.
I move that we accept the second reads of C11, student freedom of information or freedom of expression in school-sponsored media. C13, students who are homeless. D1, proficiency-based graduation requirements, and F1, travel reimbursements.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions for any of those? Seeing none, raise your hand or say aye if you agree with it.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries on 4 through 7. Thank you for that. On that group. How are you guys doing with?
We had a bit of a snag last policy meeting because we barely made quorum,
That was my
and so
fault.
there was a lot of.
Okay. That's my fault too.
Well,
Sorry, but I showed up.
yes. And that's what gives our quorum, which is odd because then
Very Christine, we like
you really
that.
don't want to hear it
Yeah.
rehashed, but you can read the notes if you want. We are still within spitting distance of getting all the policies done.
Oh, good.
If they spill over, they'll spill over into August, which is a 2-month lapse. And those ones are, the ones that are left are not critical policies. We do have some ones that we are reviewing and looking at, like the class size one, and other ones that are policy supports that Nicole needs. But as far as reviewing the policy database, I would say that we're almost done.
Thank you for that update. Number 8, facilities committee meeting time. I sense this needs to be an adjustment.
Judd had indicated, I think, that that a request to update this, but since we have warned these meetings, it does have to be board action to change the meeting times or dates or whatever.
And I totally forgot to email to the facilities committee in the last weeks, so I completely dropped the ball on being the one who could spearhead actually what time it would work for me. So
Can we do that now? Suggested time.
What time would like me?
Before we
afternoons or evenings would work better for me now because my mornings are all spoken for. So if anybody on facilities committee is willing to do it at sort of this time of day, that would be amazing. But I generally get out of work between 3:30 and 4:30, so.
Who else is on that committee?
Dan and Bill. And
it's on Thursday. You want to do Thursdays?
Thursdays would still work for me. Yep.
Because I'm going to pull a Nick Costin, and that's what I'm going to play.
That's
You gonna play golf? Twilight
That's
golf?
checking his schedule.
No, it's
Can you guys do it before our board meeting? Would that work? since you have to come up for the board meeting.
That would be fine with me. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah,
Can you squeeze that in?
okay.
Sorry.
But for me, it doesn't have to be Thursday. But all 5 of my work days are basically the same, so it could be any of the days. So that would,
No, if you're coming in on Thursday, we're all, yeah.
great. Okay.
So we say 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock on Thursdays.
Is that late enough?
On the third, right before the board meeting.
Yep.
So we did.
Yeah, and I might still do virtual, on my way
Okay.
back from work or wherever. But yes, great. Thank you all very
Yeah, I'll
much.
just have to ask for an early tea time, so. I'll invoke the Hannaford board override.
I'm so glad you're flexible.
If you're gonna do this, you gotta work on your accent.
Yeah.
We will probably have to do a different space though, because Drew and Shannon are setting up in here, so we'll find a different space to do them in.
Thank you all very much.
So I need a motion to change that. That would include the meeting, the committee, and the time.
So moved.
Well, go ahead and give it to me first.
I make a motion that we move the facilities committee meeting to 4 o'clock on Thursdays, the same as the board meeting.
That's the 4th Thursday.
Or Thursday.
Third
Oh, third Thursday,
Third
right.
Thursday.
At 4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock.
In a second?
I'll second.
Sure.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none? Thanks. And maybe that'll improve attendance. And he will report what golf course he's at, so snag him. Thank you. The electric bus.
Essentially, this is kind of hot off the press, so I have printouts if anybody would prefer to look at a printout I have on the screen.
Okay.
Is everybody good? Yeah. Okay, background is Nicole got an email from a superintendent in the Vermont that said we have 2 buses that we're trying to get rid of, 2 electric buses that we're trying to get rid of. These were buses that were purchased through the settlement with some big company that gave Vermont a bunch of money, forget. And so the state paid, these buses were 300 and something thousand, the state paid 74%. So now, this bus is, the bus that we were approached, if we were interested in, is a 2001 Bluebird electric bus. It's the big bus that fits 40 people or so. It requires a CDL, a higher bus driver's license, license to drive.
You said 2000.
2021. 2021, sorry.
Oh, okay.
We get a bottle, right?
I was like, oh, that's old.
What year did I say? 2001.
2001.
Thanks for confirming that.
I'm like,
So they're offering this bus, and this is along with the state. There's a contract we would have to sign with the state to continue doing the reporting and the maintenance and all the things that you have to do if you get 75% grant on a bus. So that would mean that we would buy this bus for about $38,000. It may have gone down a little bit since it's been a couple of months since we're doing this. So why would we buy a $38,000 electric bus other than it's an extremely good deal? Because right now the value is about $160,000. Why would we do that? Well, we have a program, Natural Resource Management and Intro to Ag, who are, those 2 programs run by Aaron Townsend, go on a field trip probably 150 of our 176 days that they are here. They either go out to the sugar shack or they're going to the woodlot or other places. And his class is big enough that right now they're using the Bus 86, which is a short bus. That's the 2006 Ford diesel short bus. And their, if you remember, our red van that we have, both of those are dedicated to Aaron, and they just park back there, and that's what they use. The 2006 diesel is at the end of its useful life. We're not sure. It's got an appointment with the doctor next week to find out a pre-inspection appointment to find out exactly what we're going to need to spend to make it passable. But Alan's estimating anywhere from $4,000 to $7,000. And it is on its useful life, end of its useful life. So I did, with help from Bill, a cost-benefit analysis of the two scenarios. Scenario one is on the left. That's if we keep the bus. I'm just going to walk you through, stop me if you have questions, or if I say something wrong. So the first column is capital costs. Obviously in FY26, that bus, we own it. The $30,000 numbers is assuming that at some point in the next 3 years, we're going to need to buy another bus. And we just bought a short bus for $120,000, and so I'm saying it would cost us, we'd finance it for $30,000 a year. The maintenance column, the $7,000 is the maintenance that we're going to have to do. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 3. And then the maintenance every year for the next 10 years. And notice that when we buy the new bus, that goes down. The fuel, the great thing about this is they're driving less than 30 miles every day round trip. And this is a 115 to 180 miles during the summer range and 100 to 80 miles during the winter range. So that works perfectly, which is why Fairfax is getting rid of them, because they just don't fit for the stop and start of their routes during the winter. And then, so total annual costs, and I have that there. So in the next 10 years, we can estimate that it's going to cost us $226,000 to manage, to buy a diesel bus, manage the one we have and buy a diesel bus. On the other side is the electric bus, and so Fairfax has agreed to let us, if you guys decide to do this, agreed to let us pay in payment now and a payment in FY27. So that's the 15 and the 23 there in the column. And then maintenance, obviously it's much lower in the beginning. And then I estimated that as it gets older, we would have to do more. I think maintenance in general for an electric car is much, much less because you don't have all the moving parts and all the things. But it is brakes and tires and what else can go wrong with an electric bus?
Windshield wipers.
Catch on fire.
Yeah. Right.
Batteries.
Battery can blow up. And then fuel costs are obviously much lower. We estimate we'd save $20,000 in fuel in over 10 years. So what does that all mean? The very far right column is basically, this is saying that we would save $11,000 by FY29. So it's a payback of 3.5 years for the initial cost and the maintenance. And then we would save $133,000 if we could make this thing last 10 years. And it's possible. It's 5 years old now. They're 15 years with these batteries are not out of the question. And because we're using it consistently and short and charging it every day and all of that, it would we would expect that it would last, or hope that it would last. Just a couple of other assumptions. I made an assumption that the battery would life 15 years. I just assumed that gas, because it's already high, I assumed it would stay the same. Break even, I talked about total savings. Advantages, obviously substantial lower fuel costs, reduced routine maintenance, lower emissions, quieter operation, and good operational fit for our needs specifically. And the risk, obviously the battery health is the big thing. If you guys were to vote to do this, what we would do and what they've agreed to do is to let us drive the bus for a couple of weeks and to make the final decision. And during that 2 weeks, I would do the battery health investigation. It says it's good and it looks good, but we would do a little bit more research. Reduced winter range compared to summer operation, but I think that's manageable. It's not ideal. We wouldn't necessarily use it in the winter if we were going to, Burlington and back. Maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't. And it requires consistent charging. We already have the chargers. We got grants a few years ago, so we have 2 chargers here, one at North Campus, and the chargers that we have fit this bus, so we wouldn't need any kind of upgrades to that. So based on that analysis, I think you guys should seriously consider moving forward. I'll take questions.
David, how many miles on the bus?
1,200, 12,000, 13,000.
Going up, okay. Chad?
This is a two-parter. A, is Aaron willing to get his Class A or whatever type of CDL is required for this? And then B, is anybody else in the building going to be able to get that same license so that if Aaron goes away or if Aaron can't do it or whatever, it's also useful for somebody else?
Currently, we have, Aaron has the license,
Oh, great.
and Alan has the license, and I think Woody has the license.
Oh,
Not for
excellent.
the big one, but,
Not for the big one.
no,
Oh, and I think Wendy has that
I
license.
used to. Eric and I both used to, but we could get ours reinstated if
Great.
we need to.
But just with the short bus, we bought the 2 short buses. I think Shannon did a great job in organizing a class that everybody took, and then we gave everybody a little stipend to get it done. And I think we had, 15 people get their
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
that's great.
license, their bus license for the small bus.
Yep.
The big bus is bigger and harder, but I would assume that we would do kind of the same thing and get more people signed up.
Wonderful.
I think we might know somebody that could teach it too. We might have to, Josh Christie's husband, but anyway, hopefully that's a possibility.
I think it's coming down.
Yeah, good, for a special, that's Christine.
I just was wondering if you asked, and you probably did, if there's been any recalls on this bus.
Yeah, and they've kept up and actually been required to keep up with all maintenance and all recalls because of, it was funded 75% by the state. Also, this is not the company that the buses burned. This is a Bluebird, well-trusted, haven't had any major issues, and hasn't discontinued making buses and batteries. So
They make an incredible bus.
if we were to buy a electric bus, the Bluebird would be the one.
Okay, it looks like a great deal. Thanks for this analysis, quite impressive. The question is, I think we've stressed our budget, the loan that we have,
Right.
as well as the payment back, which is higher than we originally anticipated. And even coming up with 15 grand it's a great deal. It's a little hard to pass up, and especially if it continues to fit our needs. So I have a 2-part question. Is this reasonable to do at this point, the way the budget's stressed with all the things we're doing in North Campus? And the other part would be, while the money looks good out 8-10 years, will the use remain the same? Do you believe it will continue to meet our needs? Because this other school said, yeah, we'll take one, and then they said, no, this ain't gonna work.
Right.
So,
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah. First off, my understanding is that the town that had the bus before, they had a much longer route in the wintertime, which is why it didn't work. And the stopping and starting was part of the issue.
Okay.
The other thing that we're already going to spend a minimum of $7,000. That's going to come out of money that we have for maintenance
okay.
on the bus that may die and that we may not want to get re-registered. So we're not coming up with 15, we're maybe coming up with 8, which I think you may have somewhere in your budget.
Yeah, so what I did for this year, I'm looking at this year, next year's budgets. And we've got a number of things happening in these budgets in both, that straddle both years, which is why I'm looking at both of them. And so we are expanding the welding lab. That's going to be a $20,000, $14,000 bid to take that wall down, more, that's going to be 20 grand. We are expanding medical professions, and we're gonna need some furniture. I've budgeted $7,000 for furniture and equipment. $5,000 for the learning center and kind of some special things for there. We're doing, and this is besides North Campus, because North Campus is already in the budget, right? We already have that in the budget. We're doing electrical lab needs another $10,000 worth of work, electrical work, and some construction work and base equipment. And we're buying very expensive computers for the gaming lab. So all of that's a lot. And so what I was trying to figure out is if we could pay for it, because the electric bus is the lowest priority, frankly, even though it's, kind of makes sense on paper. So Austin and I have been doing some work on the budgets. We feel like for FY26, this year's budget, if we pay the $13,000 or $15,000 for this bus, plus there's another $13,000 that we're paying for Power School as the implementation for this. So that's $28,000 that we're adding, that we're paying out of this budget that was not budgeted this year. And so we're at the very end of the year. So we feel like we could pay those two things out of this budget and then still have about $30,000 to add to the fund balance after we take out our tax abatement of $130,000. So what I'm saying in a long way is to say, in this year we've figured that part out, and because we're so close to the year. So the next year, what I did is I went through the FY27 budget, which is already set at $6.271 million, and looked at things that, frankly, we're just better at budgeting. So, for instance, some of the supplies that we had, the supply budgets we had for the programs, different teachers use different programs different ways, so we were able to cut money from that. We had, with all of the different changes in programs and teachers and health insurance that we know that we're going to have to pay and not pay now, we were able to save money. So I've been able to wrangle the FY27 budget to include the $23,000 payment and the other things that we have budgeted, or that we have to do, which is the electrical lab, the welding lab, and the gaming room. So it works on paper, and I feel comfortable enough to say we can manage that, the electric bus. And the other part that is cash coming in is we would sell the current bus and the van, and we would also have a little bit more money in that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you have any idea what that's worth?
I don't think it's worth a lot. I mean, we just sold a bus for $800 that was worse than this one. So at least will be $800, and I'm thinking a couple thousand.
Yeah.
Right.
So not a ton. It's usually campers and weirdos buying our buses and painting them weird colors and going off to Alaska or something.
Selling seats.
I mean, we're looking at keeping it another, 3 years. So. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hit me, Steve. Hit me.
Steve, go ahead.
So, as you may hear in the budget committee report, you were just talking about the fact that we're not going to have a carryover like we normally have.
We haven't had a carryover in the last 2 years.
So, what was the difference between the $300,000 versus the $170,000 that you talked about in the budget committee?
Oh, so what we're doing is this year's we're 185, right? Which is where we're going to add 30 to the fund balance. But one of the things that we're going to be coming to you guys a little bit later to talk about when we get further in budget season is the tax abatement that we do. So we have every year voted, or the last, 4 or 5 years, to say we are going to purposely collect less revenue than our expenses. And we're going to eat $130,000 every year. And we can't do that anymore, or we have to stop doing so much. And so what we're realizing is if we're going to add to our fund balance, which we should build that up, we have to underspend our current budget by $180,000 to $200,000, not just, so that's something that is a challenge for us that Austin and I have been kind of thinking through and planning, and we're gonna be in the budget season kind of working through that. $130,000 of tax abatement is about $950 on our tuition. So it would go up, if we didn't do the tax abatement, our tuition would go up $950. It's 40 now, I think, and so next year, nothing changed, it would probably be 42 or 43. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't know anything about electric vehicles or buses or anything else, but I appreciate the cost analysis. I guess my question is, I know the state has already grant funded this. Is there any other grants or funds that are out there that could supplement it? Like I'm thinking sustainability or green energy, or is there anything else, any other funds that would be available?
It's a great question, and I've thought about it, and I've actually done a little bit of looking, and I haven't seen anything. And I mean, the way grants work is, there could be, and I'm not opposed to continue to try that, but I haven't seen anything.
We usually, the downside to grants is usually that you can only get grant money for things you're not yet doing, right? New stuff. So it doesn't usually help you with the expenses you have. There is, we have received word that there's a grant that we I'm not able to announce yet that will also offset our fiscal year 26-7, thank you, budget by about 20 grand. So that is money which will be freed up because we got this other smaller grant, which will help with this situation too, which isn't even in this calculation because we just found out today.
How much is a battery to replace?
It's significant. It's like 80, 70, 80 grand.
Steve?
Oh, no, I was
Stretching, okay.
If I can mention real quick, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but the vehicle itself is a $380,000 bus, brand new.
Right.
And the state pitched in 240, I think.
74%.
Yeah, 74%, and the rest was by the town that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And for them right now, it's a serious black eye, which is why they want to move it off their property and they want to get rid of it.
Yeah, he would have given it to us like 2 months ago, but I was like, no.
It doesn't do what they want it to, and they're getting a lot of grief for it. But we did look at the numbers, and the price of fuel actually made the numbers even better right now, which wasn't good, but it's a good opportunity, and I think having it for a couple of weeks and being able to look at it and run trials on it, if it doesn't work, we send it back. We're not committed to it. But I think we would know more, and then do we have a meeting at that point in time and say, yes, we do something?
Well, I think, I think we would want to be, what we're asking the board to do right now is to commit to buy the bus unless there's a problem. It's sort of like when you pay your fee when you're going to buy a house, right? If we find that there's a problem, then we won't move forward. We're asking right now that the board approve us to move forward.
The other thing nobody's talking about is, from my historical perspective, we hold on to buses for a long time.
Yeah.
Same with the van. I mean, how many years we have that? Before we, finally had to retire to get salt and pepper. But at the same time, we're not like another district or Betcha where they have miles and miles that they put on vehicles. So keeping that in mind, I said, we're going to have it for a while, chances are, unless something catastrophic happens, which I doubt.
And I think the other, just kind of putting it in perspective, is that we would be paying less for this bus than we pay for a van.
Yeah, our vans cost 41,000.
Is there any type of warranty on that battery?
It's out of warranty. And that is the big risk.
Do you guys know, I was just looking at I have two things that I was thinking of. One of them is like extended service contracts.
I would look into that.
Maybe something
and
like
look
that.
into figuring out, is there insurance or some kind of warranty that we could buy for the battery? Even if it was the annual payment, you know, just to relieve the risk of like the thing just dying and it's worth nothing is worth something.
And the other thing was, that apparently you can plug it in, and if you guys already have solar, that you can sell, just like I have a battery at my house, and whatever excess, then it get sold back to Green Mountain Power, I guess, or however that works, that this thing could do the same thing while it's plugged in. And when you're done with the bus, you could take the battery out and continue to use it. It just couldn't, it couldn't be used to drive the bus, but you could use the battery. I'm just quickly looking for when it's at 70 or 80% or whatever, and it gets retired, you can still keep using it to store energy and sell it back to the grid.
Interesting to think through that, because like I'm kind of making numbers up, but we're in the deep of the winter. Our electric bill here, it can be like $7,000 or $8,000, and even in the summer it can be $3,000 or $4,000. And we never make enough solar to pay the whole thing. We're never a giver back. We're always a taker. Of I mean, we pay for less, but we're always paying. So I don't know how that would work.
How much it would save and potentially, because the way I understand it is you just bank it, it's in the battery, and then it just draws off the battery during peak hours or something.
Instead of you paying, so what you're doing is you're really saving the differential of the peak period price versus the non-peak period price on kilowatts per hour.
My mother's director of transportation for a school district in New Hampshire.
Oh.
So I have a little background on school buses. Not on electric, theirs are all gas or diesel, but my mother does say that the Bluebird buses are the only ones that she ever wants to buy because they're the ones that hold up the best. My initial knee-jerk reaction on seeing electric bus on the agenda is ugh. But I don't know, maybe it comes around here.
Good.
The other thing to think about, the price comparison, number one, at some point we are going to have to purchase a vehicle, and the idea that even just a van is about the same amount of money, and similar to like pickup trucks and semis, a modern pickup truck is 90,000, a modern semi is 120, but the semi is designed to go 500,000 miles between major overhauls. The bus is sort of the same thing. You could buy a $40,000 van that you'll get 100,000 miles out of. You could buy a $40,000 bus. Who knows about the battery? But the moving parts, the axles and things are meant to go hundreds of thousands of miles.
I just want to throw out a plug for using an electric bus and the sustainability behind it all, and you know, along with the programs that are going to be using it, is pretty awesome, I think, and something to consider. Other parts of the world, you travel only on electric buses, you know, and so I think it sounds like it's going to be, you figured out the finances. I think it's good.
If we're ready for a motion, I'd be happy to make a motion that we approve going forward with this, barring some major problem during the 2-week trial.
Yep.
I also just want to throw out, in case you guys don't know, my husband is working with Roger on CDL stuff, and they're really finding it hard to find a company that will allow them to use a trucker bus, and he said this would allow us to be able to train on that bus. for that CDL program.
So we're gonna charge adult ed?
That is
That's
just
awesome.
anecdotal
It's
from
gonna
what
cost
they're working on.
$31 over the next 2 years.
Because that's been their biggest hiccup.
I believe it.
And we have a new electrical program.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Good questions, thank you.
don't have a second.
I'll second it. Thank you. You said that loud enough right next to you, thank you. On that note, all those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Good discussion, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much for that.
Thanks for your work, David.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Bill.
And Bill. And. Important. Superintendent's report.
So we have a lot going on. I'll give you sort of the highlights. We just completed our audit, so it will be on the June agenda. And the auditor will be here with us probably by Zoom, but to cover that. But bottom line up front, it's good news. We're very pleased. And David and Austin did a fantastic job, and we're looking forward to this one for the first time. We had a little spoiler alert, but Roger, our adult education coordinator, is working right now on the possibility of standing up a CDL program. We happen to have found in the community a CDL trainer, which was the major barrier. And then the other barrier is obviously having something to train on. So that's just in the infancy, but you might start seeing some things about that. Roger's had really good success in doing these sort of pre-meetings of the community who might be interested. He tried it the first time with the massage program that it looks like we're gonna maybe move forward with, and it worked so great. So now he's doing it again where it's sort of a, if you're interested, come to this meeting and then we can gauge interest and then we know if we want to put the energy and time into that program. So that's going on. On the same note, Roger just completed a grant application for the adult education program. You may have remembered me talking last year about the fact that in all prior years, every CTE center has gotten $20,000 from the Department of Labor to support the adult education program, since it's an unfunded mandate, required to have it, but no money is coming forward for that. But they changed the way that they're doing that, and instead, nobody's getting the $20,000, and instead it's a competitive grant, and there'll be three $100,000 available. And if we win it, it's 3 years of $100,000.
Can we still not get it since they didn't hand out the 20,000?
We might not get anything, right?
Right.
But I will tell you that Roger's written a very strong grant.
Good.
Very pleased with it. And he's gonna submit that tomorrow, and then time will tell as the committee reads whatever came in. I think we do have a little bit of ace in the hole because quite a few, it's an extensive grant.
Mhm.
And many of the centers opened it up and they said, nah. It's a lot of work. It will, I'm hoping that we are successful. Other things going on is obviously the legislature's still working away. We had a wild card. The Bill 955 that I put forward to you all was moving along and making changes, and everybody was doing stuff to it, and then all of a sudden the screech of the needle across the record when a legislator threw in there a totally different plan with maps again, which I sent out to you, you've seen, and now everything is kind of, we're still making little changes to the House Bill 955 and the Senate Bill 313, which are those ones that talk about CTE language. But it seems like there are no committees meeting right now. When you look at their agendas, they're just blank. So it seems that there's something, backroom dealings, conversations. I would suspect that they're trying to find something that the governor can live with before they spend a lot of time in the energy. So I don't think, we're just waiting to see what comes forward next. We did have some success. There was a part of the legislation which was a little ambiguous about the credits that students earn here being applied in a shall manner, not in a choice manner, so that if a student earns a credit here, then they will in fact see that reflected in their high school transcript. Right now, there's very ambiguous language, and we had a lot of success in really changing that language totally the opposite, which is they shall award the credit that was earned here. And that was a group effort by all the CTE directors in the state and several senators and representatives who were very helpful. And our own Ruth Harvey was one of them that was super helpful. So that was great. And we have a whole lot of events coming up. I'll just point out that at the bottom of the agenda, where it talks about dates that are coming up, end of year dates, I would really like you all to take a look at that. It is common for the board members to come to the end of year celebration of learning, which is our version of the graduation. And this year it's going to be held in Virgins. And there are many other things that are happening, awards, FFA banquet, pinning ceremonies for LNAs, EMRs, CCNAs, and phlebotomists, and all kinds of other things going on at the end of the year. And people really do love to see the board members there. But if you can only make one, the celebration of learning is the one to make.
What's the date of that?
Next
May
Thursday.
28th?
Next Thursday at
7 o'clock.
7, Virgin's Auditorium.
And I understand it's going to be live streamed.
It is also going to be live streamed by our very own Drew, so that'll be exciting.
Pinning ceremony is Tuesday evening from 7 to 8, and I attended last year. It's packed. And
That's an ART?
It's in the black box, yeah.
Black box.
But you have that list, it's attached here, so you can print it and put it on your refrigerator. And that's what I have for you tonight.
Any questions?
Yeah, I can't access the document, Shannon, if you could allow me to access.
That's weird, because we checked it.
Yeah, it's weird, I just opened it.
This one,
End of year
Maybe
dates.
it's not on there somehow.
what's it doing when you click on it?
What's it doing?
It says access requested.
Dino.
Oh, one other thing, I do believe there's gonna be a story about us in the Addison Independent tomorrow. John Flowers was here, so be looking for that tomorrow.
Did you talk to him about the current ongoings in Montpelier, or is that?
No, this was programs, things that are happening at the center.
Oh, okay.
And it's not in the police log.
No, it doesn't.
I think I saw it in the stories on Instagram today, so.
Don't laugh.
Oh,
The hospital gets listed in the police log all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, okay. Committee reports, budget, negotiations, facilities, and policy committee. Policy committee kind of gave their little update. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're good.
And budget, we still in conversations, obviously. Everybody had a chance to meet all those committees?
Yeah, we met. And you have a brief summary. I think we talked about it. Our one issue is getting tight and heading towards the idea that we want to have a, I don't want to call it a slush fund anymore because that's kind of a bad name lately. We need a building, a reserve fund.
Capital fund.
Discussion of how we're going to implement that next year, but things under consideration.
And I did, we have not yet received the demand to bargain, but I would anticipate we would get that either in the next few weeks or very early in the fall.
I'm gonna guess fall.
Because it will be time to negotiate with our teachers union again.
Right. And Nicole and I actually had a conversation with changing the whole approach in bringing in some legal help. We worked with during our last negotiation that worked very well. And if in fact you are interested in joining that group, it would be a very good learning experience without all of the, I need to make a decision and I don't even know what you're talking about. So, that type of input's really important, and Mark was very, very good about doing that, and I think he is available. I think we kind of tentatively asked, just to make sure we had somebody, if and when we get approached by the
Who's in that group right now?
Right now it was Judd and Kim, and because we had someone, I can't remember, somebody was on it, but then they left.
Sharon.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so let's put that out there and just keep having that conversation. But I think just from my experience, it helps you learn about the history of the contracts and so on, and if they had to go to the level where we were at, he's just pretty knowledgeable. And he knows the players in the state, which is another important factor. Anyway, okay. Any other reports from any of the other committees that you want to share? Or I think we've got quite a bit.
Facilities keeps meeting about having a meeting that we're not having, but we'll get to it next month.
Okay.
Could we give a little update on the building, North Campus, just
That would
so we
be
talk
great.
about that? So the project has started. They are, they're doing things that they can do during the school year because of the weather and just timing. So for instance, they've already completed all the windows in this building as far as replacing all the gaskets and those kind of things. And in main campus, they've done some work on the barn. They're in there this week working on the doors, the big bay doors. But we're moving forward. Everything seems to be plugging along, and we are very lucky that we signed, committed to a 4.93% interest rate when we did, because it went up a lot. So things are moving along.
Thank you.
Are we able to, are we on schedule with the actual air handling equipment?
Good. The air handlers are not coming in until October. But that's okay. What they've purchased is when they're doing the roof, there's a skirt that they figured out that they can put up on it so that when the ERUs come, they're going to lift them off and put them on and finish everything. So that's the only thing that will be hanging out there in October. And I think we're doing it, there's a couple of days that school's out in October, like a Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
And so that's when we're going to do it.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for that.
Yep, any other questions? Discussion, facilities use, and student information system.
So facilities use is just kind of an update for the board. We are, oftentimes during the summer, we have different groups that use the building. This particular year, it's gonna be a little dicey because of all the work that we have going on. So we do have one request right now to use the theater, and we're in the process of seeing if that's possible. But it's gonna be pretty torn up and equipment everywhere, and I'm just a little nervous about that, so we'll have to see how that goes. The other thing of interest is, over the last 3 years, this board's been real busy starting programs. So we are, as David said, we're expanding the medical professions lab because we've almost tripled the enrollment over the last 2 years with Stephanie here. We have started this new gaming program, which needs a room. We are required to expand the welding lab to double the space, which we're doing. We are building the electrical lab, and I'm probably forgetting something. I think those are them. Okay. So the long and the short of it is we are actually out of rooms now for the first time. And I think that's a really good problem to have, but it is also a problem. So right now our business office is in the special education classroom because, as you know, for the last 2 years we have not had a special educator. We've had a wonderful interim who's done a great job, but not a continuing employee. She's essentially been doing it out of the goodness of her heart to help us out. I mean, we're paying her, but she's retired and would like to be retired. So we have hired a fantastic new special ed coordinator, and he will be here and need a space. So that is our last actual space. And then what do we do with the business office? So we are working through that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in executive session, but just, I mean, it's really wonderful to see that over the course of the years we have been starting the right programs, because each of the programs we have started are now full. And those that we have totally turned around, like the medical professions program, and reorganized it around the certifications that students earn that are real world certifications, making a huge difference, especially adding the EMR and ENT, which is attracting boys for the first time. And similarly, we're getting a lot of girls into our welding programs, and we have quite a few signed up for electrical as well. So we have been focusing on the right programs, and I'm really excited about that. And also, we are now at the place where many districts are, where now it's a space issue. So we will continue to work through that and just giving you a heads up. And then the other piece is Power School, so the student information system. We don't have one. So all of you in regular school districts, you know that you have Power School or something similar. We don't have a student information system. We have a grading program called Jump Rope, but that's what it is, it's a grading program. And it has become an important thing for us to move forward in the maturity of the district to actually have a student information system, which builds transcripts and keeps grades year over year and keeps student data and stores IEPs and all the things. All of those functions are currently being done by us by spreadsheets and Google Files and all of that. And and several things have occurred which make it critical for our students that we have a student information system. So we met with our leadership team, we met with our staff. Nobody's too excited about learning a whole new grading program because they are moving from one grading program to another, but they also completely understand the necessity for having a robust and real built-out student information system. So we have decided to move from Jump Rope to Power School, and we are starting that transition now. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff to get done. The good news and bad news is that we don't have really any data to import or turn over because we didn't have a student information system to start. We are pretty sure that we're going to be able to import the grades from Power School so that we have that data. But other than that, we'll be building out our student information system. So stay tuned, we'll come back with more reports about that. But one of the driving forces, I will just say, one of the driving forces around this is when our students leave us, they don't have anything which would look like a transcript to show what credits they've earned here, what embedded credits they've earned here, what IRCs they've earned here, and what college credits they've earned here. So it's very important that a student has that record and that record lives in perpetuity. So if they come back in 10 years and said, I earned an LNA and license with you, I need some proof, we can pull their transcript from that time and show that. So that was the major driving factor behind this decision to move over.
That information doesn't go to the sending schools and become part of that transcript?
We could have a whole board.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we could have a whole board PD around this.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did was we pulled several transcripts from several different kinds of programs from each of our 3 major sending schools and then another one that we get quite a lot of kids from. Mm-hmm. And we looked at how a specific class and specific IRCs were transcripted. It was completely different from one to the other. And that was the thing that really just tipped the scale, because we've been talking about going to a real student information system for a while, but when we saw the evidence of how students were getting very different outcomes from taking the exact same class, that really brought the sense of urgency home. Yes.
Right, but what about interoperability? The other schools, are they gonna be able to receive this data and integrate it, or is it gonna be, an apple and an orange, and hopefully they have the right fruit salad to graduate?
So what we're gonna do, again, we'll have more reports on this, but what we're gonna do is both have our own transcript that we can give a child and their parents. Also, we're gonna write a set of instructions about how our things should be transcripted. We can't force the sending schools to do that, but we can provide the information and hope that we can collaborate there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Do each of the schools have different systems?
No, everybody pretty much has Power School. Yeah, which is why we chose Power School.
Okay. And the ones who don't will probably have to get.
I think they pretty much. I mean, everybody that we deal with in this region has Power School.
Okay, that's not the one that was just hacked, is it?
It is.
It is.
Yes.
Oh.
It is. Yes.
But we didn't have it yet.
So where to sign up?
And we did our due diligence and sat through all the lessons about how they fixed everything, and
right.
so
Yeah, and they've increased firewalls and all that jazz now.
All right.
Quick question.
Yes.
I know you mentioned briefly that Roger's doing a bunch of grant work and he's looking at a CDL program. How are the other adult ed programs doing?
So our medical professions programs are just like the day program blowing up. We had to add a second section both this spring and in the summer, I think.
Yeah, and he's got 2 full LNA classes this summer. 2.
And then we have our new person, Kelly Cloner, who has been picking up advanced welding classes, which are going really well. I'm probably forgetting some of the other ones we've got going on.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot in the kitchen. He's going to continue that partnership with Middlebury College. He's doing small engine. He's looking at massage therapy, CDL. He is chatting with the counseling service. Their counseling service is moving from a designated agency to a CCBHC, which is another level of mental and medical services, and so they're looking for some workforce training, and they're actually have a grant to do some of that. So they're talking, Roger and the executive director of CSAC are talking about some of that. So
we're also going to be offering, so the game art animation class, Chris is going to be offering a summer class on that. And that's going to be kind of our beta test of all our equipment and things like that, which will be really fun.
And he was going to do a huge welding program this summer with, what's her name?
Kelly.
But we're renovating the lab, so
tearing the lab apart, right?
Yeah, we're renovating the lab. Do you mind if I just say one thing about adult ed? Because I think there's some new board members. I just want to make this one point. Nicole mentioned that it's not in our budget. It's self-funded. So Roger's salary, part of Melissa's salary, who's administrative assistant, plus all the teachers and all the equipment is all paid for by the tuition that he raises. Now, obviously the general fund, if he doesn't break even, the general fund has to eat the loss. So we watch that very closely. Roger and I have been working very hard to make sure that he's growing the program, and he's kicking butt and really taking it upon himself to grow the program, which is why I think, and with the grant, he'll be doing more and more.
Right.
So I just want everybody to understand that it's a self-funded program. It's like his own little business, nonprofit.
Right, it's very entrepreneurial in nature, right? And it's a tightrope between charging enough to make enough money, but not charging so much that community members can't afford the class. So it's a really interesting part of what we do.
My understanding is it also, can you use not CSAC, what's the state college loan?
BSAC.
Can you use that for some of the evening classes?
Yep. They're a significant they're a significant provider of scholarships to our students.
Yeah, he I don't have it in front of me, but he quoted in our grant application how many of our students are here because of that grant. And BSAC's a little tricky because it's a first come, first serve, right? So if you get it at the end, you don't really, there's no money left. Right, so, but we do, part of our service is that we help people connect the money source so that they can take the class.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
With the CDL thing, depending if you need display stuff, it would be interesting if that's a draw that we could get some truckers to bring their vehicles down, and that would be really neat to have it all on hand. And I could ask around and then probably bring one down from my employer. So anyway, that would be great.
That's the struggle, is the truck.
Public comment on any other topic that we have not discussed? Just
I went to the ART show that won all the awards, or not won all the awards, made it through all of the various levels, and then they went on and were invited to do at the main stage at the Town Hall Theater, and it was called My Sister Heracles. Bill was there, Nicole, Wendy, you were there. It was, I don't know what you guys thought, I thought it was amazing. There was a comment earlier on that, wow, this really is not student theater, this is much more, and it it was really impressive. It was very emotional, and it was really neat to see that Eric has, it's not just the students doing a great job, it is Eric and that program consistently do amazing work, and just year after year, and this one was amazing. So if it ever plays again, if they do it again, you know, you're not going to student theater if you go to see it. It's really impressive. And on that same topic, one of the shows from a couple of years ago that the students also wrote, completely original, the community players in Colchester or Charlotte, I'm now Shelburne,
yeah.
they adopted it and they did it. So, you know, a full-on community program, and my kids went to see it after being in it, and they said it was fantastic. And so anyway, just as sort of credit to that program, that other theaters around the state are saying, hey, I want to take what your students wrote and produced and do it, which I think is pretty huge.
They're also looking to get that one published, so that
Awesome.
would be really
That would be
great.
very
Yeah.
cool.
And there's no dialogue.
The
Which is
one,
pretty
my
cool.
sister Heracles,
Yeah, right.
yes.
The other thing that Eric's done, and just talking with him on the side during the open house, he works a lot with the Middlebury
Yes.
Theater Group, the Mount Abe Theater Group, and the Regents Theater Group. And those are his feeder programs, and that is something that didn't necessarily happen in the past, just to the degree that he's been doing it. And I think that alone just keeps that alive, because it's, I can just speak for Mount Abe, they start in 7th grade, and they just, you know, if they're not doing sports, they're doing that, and it's just huge. It's a huge program, but kudos to Eric.
So one thing that was actually kind of cool about that is there's a scene, I can't remember the character, had wings in the play. And those wings showed up for a couple of weeks for the Lego Robotics / Drone Club, because they were trying to figure out how to make them. And they kept bringing them in, they'd sew them, they'd bring them back, and they'd be playing with them. So the whole community was actually very involved in that play. Did a great job.
Board reflection.
Okay, one more public comment. We've rented a space at the Addison County Field Days. We will be auctioning off our 1969 Thunderbird two-door green monster.
Cool.
So we're gonna sell raffle tickets and do that, so.
There's a club that has a car show out there after Field Days, and more into September. And I may give you a name, somebody to call, because if you want to hold off the winner,
Yeah,
make a little
we're
more
gonna
money.
do that, yep.
That might be a really, and it's the same place and it's huge. There's over 200 cars that show up, but
Perfect.
it's just another way to generate some more do-re-mi. Thank you, Dave. Board reflection. Thank you, Jen.
Great meeting, lots of great, robust discussion. Wonderful to have Dylan here to explain about SillksUSA, and again, just kind of like the theater thing, just students here who are passionate about what they do, and it shows. Yeah, thank you all.
On his comment, if I can speak up, the graduation next Thursday night, if none of you have ever been to a graduation from the Career Center, it's completely different than a graduation from one of the high schools. Everybody's completely out of hand, they're excited, they're having fun, and they're just so excited for the kids, and it's amazing. It's completely different, and I have slept through 4 graduations in high school, and I was like, oh yeah, why couldn't they be like this? They're a lot of fun, and the kids really enjoy having people show up. So it's well worth it.
On that note, for celebrations of student learning, through a variety of circumstances, our administrators in this building put that breakfast on both days. And I want to thank you for doing that, and and our executive secretary, without a bump. And it may not have happened without it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I know how much those families appreciate that. And thank you all, the ones that do attend regularly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very important. Okay, next board meeting events are all listed. I need a motion to go into executive session. Steve, if you wanna read all the.
Bye, Shannon.
Thanks,
Take care,
Shannon.
Shannon. You're lucky.
Since the one is labor negotiations, you have to have a finding first, so I'll do that first.
Thank you.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the labor contract clearly places the board at a substantial disadvantage because the board risks disclosing its negotiation strategy if it discusses the labor contract in public.
Second.
Any questions from anybody? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
I need to make an adjustment, sorry. If it says labor, it's supposed to say legal.
Oh,
Yeah,
contracts labor, oh, okay.
so the last part, it's not about the labor. It's the last part, pending or
it's-
probable civil litigation or prosecution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I need to have Nicole here. When?
We haven't gone in, we
Okay,
haven't gone to the
I'm
motion
clarifying
yet.
who should be here.
Right, but that's the second motion.
I got it.
You do a motion or two.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Look at her. I'm going swimming. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Steve, go ahead.
So I move to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing legal or civic issues and, which is 313A1, and also for the appointment, employment, or evaluation of a public officer or employee, which is VSA 313A2. No.
A3.
Three. Sorry, 3.
Second.
Thank you.
And then we invite.
Both of you, or just you?
Not Wendy, she wants.
Wendy's leaving. She just got out here fast.
I'm happy to
So we
stay if
include
you need me,
Nicole,
but Nicole's got it.
and we do not need anyone else other than board members. You don't need anybody else.
There is I would point out that there is a pending agenda item that says there may be legal action after this executive session, so Linda, how do you want to do?
Normally I don't stay.
She doesn't
I know
stay.
you don't, so.
She get-
Yeah, I
need me to.
write it
There's a-
15 minutes.
Bye, Wendy.
Have a good
Bye,
day.
Wendy.
I appreciate it.
Is it legal action or an action item?
Legal, well, the action item says legal action.
It's an action item about legal.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Austin.
Take care, Austin.
Just stop the recording.
Drew?
I
Who wants
don't
to
think
make
it's
the mo-
recording yet, so can't.
Yeah.
Start now.
Am I making a motion?
Go ahead and read that. So we're gonna vote on a motion, and Christine's gonna read it?
The motion is to join the legal action regarding the PCB litigation.
Second?
All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion carries.
Was there no abstaining, right? Because Liz.
I'd like to abstain.
That's what
Thank
I
you.
thought you said
Thank you.
before, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and
Thank you.
then, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you all.
Second.